You're listening to In Sumter with Sarah Jane, a show about celebrating Sumter, a part of the Item Podcast Network, presented by SKF.
You have like stemware.
I know. So birthday rosé. So I have this rule at my house: you have to have champagne on hand at all times,
Okay.
because you never know when you want to celebrate.
All the time?
At all times, you must have
Okay.
champagne.
All right.
Yeah, don't you think?
I think that's fabulous.
Yeah. So okay, cool. So thanks for coming on In Sumter with Sarah Jane.
Thank you so much for having me.
This is Sarah Vorhees, and tell me your official title, because I know it is speech pathology.
Yeah, speech language pathologist. Whoa!
Also, happy birthday.
Thank you. 39 and feeling fine.
There is no way.
I know.
Oh my
There is.
gosh. How's your husband let you leave the house looking like that?
He's gone all day. No. And usually I'm in scrubs.
Just painting me a good picture. That's all I
Right?
see.
Aw.
Anyways, well, cheers to you.
Thank you. Cheers to you, though. To the Sarahs.
To the Sarahs.
To the Sarahs.
We don't charge for refills, so help yourself.
Love the rules. Oh, yum.
I haven't had that before, so
This is good.
I didn't think about it until I put it to my lips. I was like, this could be dicey. We could just
not
be
too
suffering
sweet. I
through.
like
Okay,
it.
good. All right, cool. Well, speech pathology, and I interrupted you with the champagne.
No, speech language pathologist. I have a certificate of clinical competency in that, and a
Clinical competency.
yeah. So if you're, in the field looking for a speech pathologist for, your patient or your kid or your family member, I would just always make sure that they're a CCC SLP.
CCC SLP.
Yeah, that means that they went through a little bit more than just the schooling portion.
Katie, with her LPC,
Yes.
she's gonna hate me because I think she's an LPC, but I can't remember if there's.
She's definitely an LPC.
She dropped her I. That's the thing. You can't have the I. You go through, and so she's concerned with the letters behind the name too.
There's a lot of acronyms in the medical field.
A lot between the different therapies. Okay, so what's your? Oh, I'm so sorry. You're gonna be able to hear these ambulances. We gotta wait a second. No, we got them tuned out.
Oh yeah,
Micah's
the man.
Micah is the man.
I have no questions.
So, speech language pathology.
Which is funny because when people drink, they're always like, "Can you help me talk better?" And I'm like,
Sure.
"Yeah,
As soon as
that's
you're
exactly what I do."
So, what is it that you do?
So I work with right now patients that have communication disorders that can be cognitive, it can be intellectual disabilities, it can be swallowing disabilities. Speech pathologists kind of run like a gamut of what they can do or what they specialize in. Some are like into voice, some are really into reading or dyslexia and helping the language portion.
When you say into voice, like singing?
Yeah, there are speech language pathologists that help with singing because singers are abusive, usually to their vocal folds and vocal cords, and so they develop nodules. And then you would need a speech language pathologist to help you kind of learn how to use or warm up your vocal cords and folds.
Okay.
When I worked at Vanderbilt, on the 2 floors below us there's a vocal clinic, which is like huge. So like all the singers in Nashville would be in there all the time.
That's cool.
It is kind of cool.
You meet anybody fancy?
Oh, people would walk in all the time. Keith Urban, Brad Paisley.
Oh my
If they
gosh.
need just like a little touch up.
Just a little touch up.
Touch up.
Could you warm up the nodules, please?
You want to get rid of the nodules by warming them up and having like good, what we would call vocal hygiene. So anybody that is a teacher that uses their voice all the time, that's aerobics instructor, that's yelling, those people are all at increased risk for vocal
Moms.
nodules. Definitely. Clean your room.
Got those middle names in there. Okay, so, and then you went on from voice to dyslexia?
Yeah, so some speech language pathologists will specialize in language, and reading and language go hand in hand together.
I am amazed.
It is. It's a big field. It's a really big field, and people are always like, "Oh, you help me say my R's," and I'm like, "Well, I can do that for sure, but there's a lot more to the field too."
So what is it that you specialize in?
I specialize a lot in intellectual disabilities and then adults that have had like a traumatic brain injury, like a stroke.
So tell me, like, mental disabilities, what are some, I hate to be the one to be like, what are some examples, but I want some examples.
So for like a cognitive disability, maybe there's intellect with that. Sometimes autism can be part of the triangle, can be a cognitive disability. So anywhere where there's like a little bit of function that might be missing there in their daily life, that's what we can help out with that.
Practicing using your vocal cords, which from what I'm hearing includes, using your brain a different way.
Definitely. Because our brain is a big center, right, for communication, for language. It has, all of the kind of controls that go out that tell us what to do.
So how does that connect with reading?
Ooh, this could be like a 4-hour-long conversation because...
Don't worry.
Right?
Before that ends.
We have visual input, right? So we have to be able to decode letters. Our brain then switches to the sound, and then we're reading, we say the sound. So we have to know if we see an A, the letter is A, the sound is ah, and then when I put a T next to that, it's at. So there's a lot of processes that go into understanding reading.
So do you have to, when you're helping somebody, do you go through the whole alphabet with them like that, or does it break down some way? Like, this is very overwhelming to me right now. I'm like,
It depends. So if you have a stroke, and depending on what part of the brain has been affected, or where, the brain cells died, or the gray matter is, you can have difficulty with not being able to recognize letters or numbers. If you are, a child in elementary school and you have a language disorder, you might have an increased trouble with reading because, you have to have one to be able to do the other.
What are some of the things that you do to help bring that decoding back?
Right. Giving the types of cues that you need to know that people work with. So we use a lot of visuals. We'll use a lot of phonemic cues, so sounds. I might do kind of mouth exercises because they might be saying it a certain way. And then say like a kid that says, I was just going to use an example. So if they're saying one word or one sound, we write how we say it, right?
Okay.
And so if I'm saying the wrong sound, I'm going to write that. Or if I read it, I might be saying it the wrong way too. So being able to give visuals and, phonemic cues, articulator cues, and drill work. We have to drill constantly, right?
Oh, it's like the flip card game, just constantly. Is that you? Do you have a lot of flashcards?
Lots of flashcards, lots of board games. Even if they're adults, working that into, can you find your name? Can you find the number for your room? If you're staying in the hospital, things like that. Can you read your medication label? How many times a day do you have to take your medication? Can we work on numbers? Things like that.
So, okay, one more time. I should have written it down. What do you specialize in again?
I specialize usually in cognitive disabilities. So either intellectual side, something happened at birth maybe.
Do you have an age range that you focus on?
I like older people personally.
Okay.
And then, I've worked a lot in pediatrics as well, but usually pediatrics goes from like birth to 21. And I usually take like the older side of that and go up.
Well, that that's a really big span, especially when you think about like the development of a human. I mean, you're talking like kids from infancy, like every month something new is going on, and then you have a big developmental change every 6 months with kids. So it's just like, you take 0 to 21. Like, sounds like you got to know a lot of stuff.
You do, but then, people kind of filter out. Well, I really like early intervention. So I really like working with the birth to 3-year-old population, or I really like the preschool population, you know, and they're working like from 3 to 6, or, you know, someone might like the middle school. I've worked a lot in high schools. Like, I love those
you worked
kids.
at Sumter High, didn't you?
Yes. Go Gamecocks.
So, how long did you work at Sumter High?
I was contracted there for 2 years.
And was it like a regular teacher? You just showed up and you were in a room, or was it like a guidance counselor thing? Or
So speech gets their own room usually.
Please pardon me for any sort of thing that I attach to any of those words. Okay,
You're fine. You're fine. It's all about awareness, right?
Right. That's what, because I don't know. You got to tell me. You'd be like, nah, girl.
So speech has its own room usually, or they might have to share depending on the building. At Sumter High, they were really good to me. I had a nice room. So you can do pull-out services, so you can work with small groups or directly, or sometimes I would go into the classroom and I would do my own kind of language lesson with some of the classrooms there, because they have mild, moderate, severe, and an autism classroom at Sumter High.
That is super cool. I knew they had that program, but I didn't know a ton about it. I just knew it was available.
It's amazing. And at every school, you know, there's special education resources. Some campuses are, you know, more fitted with more classrooms or with more, I don't know what to say, aids, or like one of the elementary schools has a grant for like a robot that they use with the autism program. His name is Milo.
Cool.
Right.
Got to be able to talk to Milo.
You got to talk to Milo.
Sentences. I'm so glad that you brought up Milo, because I read this article, I would like to say, the other day. It's probably like 2 or 3 years ago. It said that we're all losing our accents because we're trying to talk to computers all the time.
Exactly. I read that too.
Tell me, do you know anything more about it?
I don't work in accent modification. Some people do, but yeah, you know, if you look at like the news or whatnot, any of the newscasters, no matter usually where they are, they're supposed to speak with what we would call like a Midwest accent.
They're supposed to speak with like a Midwest accent?
Yes.
Is that where the brain center for the newsroom is? Like,
no, but I think it's supposed to be like the most neutral concerning like vowel sounds and things like that.
I can see how it would be.
And you know, people transplant now a lot.
And that's pretty neutral zone politically.
They love some red states up in the Midwest.
but like, I feel like there are a lot that are like, Southern hick, or like, Yankee. And then just, you know, so somebody from the Midwest, they're like, oh, cool, cornbread.
Definitely corn, because I lived on the West Coast forever. I'm Midwestern from Ohio, born and raised. And I'd be like, yeah, go Bucks. I'd be like, oh, you know, I'm originally from Ohio, and people would be like, oh yeah, Iowa. So if you're like west of the Mississippi, like it's all just one big cornfield, you know, with like a vowel state. Iowa, Ohio, Illinois, Indiana. You're just like, yeah, they all just, you know.
We're all there together.
One big cornfield.
One big cornfield. That's so great. Oh my gosh, one big cornfield. So you don't do any of the accent stuff, which makes me feel really good about not previously in our fun situations be like, fix the way I talk.
No, not at all. I think people use it a lot for business and for schools. You have a lot of international teachers where they have to be able to communicate with the students. When I was in grad school, we had to take an international teacher and help them.
Nice.
Yeah.
I've had friends that have struggled in classes because of language and speech. When I went to college, I lost a lot of my accent. And when I came back to sell real estate, I was like, oh, we got to bring that back. We got to bring that back in spades.
And it's almost like a code switch, too. So with certain people or in certain environments, you know how you can speak. And maybe if you're in a social environment with friends or people that are from here or family members, you know, that accent might come out a little bit stronger because maybe you're not in a business setting on a phone call with somebody else, you know, so you can go in and out with it.
I definitely make it more or less thick depending on who I'm working with. I'm like, will they appreciate this or will they assume that I'm an idiot? Which one is it going to be today?
No.
So, come on, Southern accent.
I don't judge anybody here.
Oh, I know. I just feel like the grand scheme of
Because the person with the really thick jaw that's wearing camouflage probably owns the $1 million beach house.
They just got back from hunting on their own private land. Yeah. You picked it up quick. How long have you been in Sumter?
A little over 3 years, 3.5 years. Yeah.
Personally, it's not been long enough.
No,
I want
not
you
at
to
all.
stay here forever.
We elected to stay here longer, which a lot of people do. I find once they get here, you know, Sumter has a huge retiree population from the military here. Mm-hmm. My husband and I moved here. We were like 23 months in, out. That's what they told us. And then we were able to stay.
Well, I'm so glad you got to stay. I wish you were going to keep staying.
Maybe we'll be back.
Please come back.
This is my husband's second time at Shaw.
Yes.
Maybe there will be a third. Yeah.
Dear Shaw, bring the Vorhees back. Okay, so you've been here for a little over 3 years, right? And then you're going to DC. Can I tell? I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
I was like, oh, God.
This isn't a secret. We're not that cool.
Well, also, it's this side of the world, so it's probably okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, quickly moving on to something else. You've worked other places here in Sumter with speech pathology.
Yeah. So I work for a contract company that is based out of Atlanta, and I've been with them for like 10 years. So with the military, we move very frequently. And as a licensed practitioner, I have to get a license in every single state that we move to, which is hard.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of red tape, and it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of expense. The military right now is helping with that. They're subsidizing some funding for that. They're trying to get states to, give some reciprocity with licensure and things like that. So I work for a contract company, and no matter where I go, as long as I get a license in that state, I know that I can get work because there's such a shortage in the rehab field in general. So kids, if you want to go into physical therapy or occupational therapy or speech therapy, you'll have a job.
Yeah. Did you, when you decided to become a speech pathologist, is that what I'm supposed to say?
Yeah, you can say that.
What's your preferred title?
So speech pathology speech pathologist, the preferred title. Some people will say like speech teacher. We're not teachers. Some people say speech therapist, and we actually do diagnose disorder, which is where the pathology part comes in. But,
So when...
You can call me Sarah.
You can call me Sarah. When you decided to do this, did you kind of fall into it, or were you, pretty analytical about what you want to do? Like, how did you get into it?
So I came into this field kind of for a personal reason, and I feel like a lot of people in the rehab field do. I was in a relationship, and he was in a terrible car accident. Went through, hit a tree, went through, the windshield wiper, underneath the car caught on fire.
Oh my gosh.
He was lucky to have lived, was in a medically induced coma for a while, and then ended up having to go to a step down kind of rehab unit and then to a nursing home to get all of his abilities back. So I would visit at lunchtime. And at lunch is usually when speech is there because they're feeding you and they're talking to you while they're feeding you. I had worked previously in corporate healthcare, so I knew the healthcare side, but I'd never worked clinically. And so I would go there, and the progress that he made was just absolutely amazing. And she was so gentle and so informative. And I was just like, this is what I want to do.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
You just kind of watched it happen. And so from there, did you know there was a big need for therapists, or?
I didn't, but to see, when he came out of his accident, he wasn't able to write, he wasn't able to talk, he wasn't able to walk. And so I saw all of the therapies go through that, or him go through all of the therapists. And speech, I think, just kind of spoke to me. I'm a natural communicator. Have a lot of...
I have fun communicating with
you. Some writing, in my history and things like that. And
so how old were you when this happened?
I was in my mid-20s.
Okay, so were you in college?
I was out of college. I already had a bachelor's degree
in
communication.
Oh, there you go.
Exactly. So I had to go back and do 2 semesters of prerequisites to get into grad school, and then I did 2 years of graduate school because it's a minimum master's, and then I went on for an additional year. I did a clinical fellowship, and then that's how I got the certificate of clinical competency.
Nice.
Yeah, but like physical therapist now, you have to have a doctorate of physical therapy. If you're going to be an audiologist, you got to have a doctor of audiology hearing.
Oh.
Yeah, so fields that we
improve your
work
hearing?
close to. Well, hearing aids or cochlear implants.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would think that would need, but I don't know. I didn't know it.
A lot of school.
Schooling needs anything. I got out of school and I was like, great, glad that's done. Who wants to hire me?
Let's make some money.
I'll be good at whatever you want me to be good at. Just point me in a direction.
You're amazing at what you do.
Thank you so much. I am so lucky to have found real estate and got a new sign. Had to put it up.
Oh, yeah.
But it's my thing. I love it. It's got a lot of communication involved in it.
It's all
It has a
communication.
lot of relationship involved, like reading people quickly. Do you have to figure out people's personality, working with them in kind of a therapy place?
I think we work on the social use of language, which would be called pragmatics.
Okay.
Right? So sometimes people that have had, frontal issues with their brain, accidents or things like that, we kind of lose that filtration system where you're like, don't say that out loud. Like, you can think that. Yeah, don't say that. So if you have like a frontal
Sometimes
brain
I do
injury,
that.
yeah, you're just like, ooh.
Didn't mean to say it like that.
Sometimes, people that are on the autism spectrum have a really hard time interpreting, things like inferences or,
Oh, yeah.
Reading people's feelings because their thinking is a little bit more concrete. So that's, I think, where speech would come into that. But, for you, you're definitely working with people in a very kind of emotionally heightened time, buying a house,
Three
selling
most
a house.
stressful things that you can do is buy a house. 3, getting a divorce, having a kid, and buying a house.
Yeah.
Like, married isn't even as stressful as like
People just bring on that stress.
yeah. We're just like, yeah, we're here for this. There's so many good things that come with that when you first get married.
Mm-hmm.
It's when you get divorced that it sucks. You're like, ugh. Anyway, so can I circle back to
Sure.
the guy?
Yeah.
How's he doing? Do you know?
I think he's doing really, really well.
Okay.
He is back in Ohio and he has a family and he is fully functional, went back to work, is very successful in his business.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
Just to hear from like the car accident, it's like, we got to circle back and follow up with this guy. Like,
Yeah,
induced coma is a big deal.
it was huge. And, it was a very traumatic experience in his life, in my life as a partner of someone,
Yeah, just witnessing it has got to be a struggle, and you can't do it for him, and just watching all of that. So
Yeah, we were together. We probably stayed together like 4 or 5 years after his accident. So that didn't
Wow.
define him or us or the relationship.
And I wouldn't have thought it did, but if I had been listening to this, I'm like, man, whatever happened to the guy?
Yeah.
Is he like still okay?
He's doing well. I'm sure he had a lot of hardware that had to be inserted, to
yeah.
fix all the broken bones and things
Yikes.
like that. So I hope he's doing really well.
You're such a sweet person. I'm
No,
telling
he
you
was
what.
good. I loved him. I loved his, his family was very, very sweet. So
Sorry, my dad's calling me. So anyway, the speech pathology, and I wanted to talk about, you have to get your license renewed every time you move.
yes.
So you got into this when you were in your 20s after college. You had to go back, finish this up, and then what did you do when you first were certified?
So I stayed at Vanderbilt.
Okay.
And then I was like, I have loans to pay off. And the thing about Vandy is that it's amazing, but they don't have to pay a ton because everybody wants to be there, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because you get the name,
Yeah.
but you don't get those dollars.
You don't get those dollars. Yeah.
And I think at the time I didn't fit in Nashville. I was like 28. I was single. I wasn't from the area. And so there wasn't this huge connection that we have now where there's Facebook groups and all these meetups and things like that. Like, I was a weirdo because I was single and 28 and living in a southern city that wasn't half as progressive as it is today.
Right, yeah. I can imagine that Tennessee 10 years ago was not very progressive.
So I struggled a little bit in that kind of corridor where I'm like,
So where'd you go?
I got a job with this company, and I moved to California.
Oh my gosh, had you ever been?
I had been there, but I had wanted to move there my entire life. When I was younger, I went to the library, and they had a Where the Wild Things Are contest.
Okay.
And my wild things, you had to put a pin on the map of where the wild things were. And my wild things were in California. My mom was like, no, they've got to be, in an island in the South Pacific. There's someplace else exotic. And I was like, no, they're in California. I won the contest.
Yes.
Yes. And so my whole life I wanted to get out there always, always. And finally, when I moved there, my mom sent me a puzzle of where the wild things are. Because she was like, go find your wild thing.
Oh my gosh, that's so precious. The they called me twice in a row. I'm a little bit worried. So you're going out to California. Did you know anybody when you were on your way over there?
No.
Okay, so our mutual friend Allison
Yes.
just took off to Nashville, Tennessee.
Yes.
Doesn't know a soul.
I was the same way when I moved to Nashville.
Oh man.
And there was no Facebook or anything.
Well, she's got a leg up because now there's one of the dating apps, I think it's called Bumble. You can toggle it over to just friends and you can find girlfriends.
Oh.
It's
yes.
It was like find friends. So yeah, she's already had a friend date.
Oh,
so they
good
went
for
hiking yesterday.
her.
Yeah. So that's super cool. Okay.
I love her. Love Allison. Hi, Allison.
Also, I'm gonna ask for you to tell me the story about you and Damon again because I love it so much.
Oh, so he was my ultimate wild thing because had I not moved to California, I would not have met him.
Oh, I didn't know that part.
Yeah. So we were both living in Monterey, California, which is so amazing on the Central Coast. If you've never been.
I'm not.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
We'll go together.
Yes, we will go. It's about 2.5 hours south of San Francisco. But just beautiful and rugged, and it's my happy place. But anyways, I'll stop about Monterey. I was coming back from a wedding in Ohio/Iowa over Labor Day weekend, and Damon, I think, had gone to Phoenix, and we were both flying from Phoenix to Monterey. He was in language school there. And
interesting.
Yeah, right? So the language comes into play again. And we were seated next to each other on this small little puddle jumper plane from Phoenix to Monterey. So I was 13A, he was 13B, and I'm sure I was the last person on the plane because I'm always running late. And I got to his row, and I was just like, I'm your window.
Oh.
Love. But he played it really cool. He did.
Oh my gosh.
He wasn't a creeper. He wasn't like,
And that was it. And you guys stayed in contact?
We stayed in contact. He was reading like an actual hardcover book, which I loved. And he had on a Goose Island beer shirt, which is like a brewing company in Chicago. So we could talk about that.
Picking up all these clues.
Yeah. So there are all these things about him. And, he walked me to a cab. He gave me his number. He didn't ask for my number. Or I think I took his number because we both went to Big Ten undergrad schools. So, coming off of Labor Day, I'm like, if you want to watch a game sometime this fall, we can do that.
That's right, because you're a football fan.
Huge football fan.
Oh, I forgot about that. Man, I love that story every single time that you tell it.
He's my favorite travel story.
Oh, my Lanta. So, and he's why you got looped into coming over here to Sumter.
That is true.
So, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that. Having to get your license renewed every time you move, military spouse, all of that. I'm sure it can be very frustrating.
It can be.
And that's why I wanted to know your timeline of like, did you pick this because it would travel well, or does it maybe not travel super well?
This travels super well with his career. So I feel very fortunate as a military spouse to have a career that I might have to do a little bit of legwork for it, but I can pick up no matter where we are. If we're international, I could still work,
Nice.
And so I feel very good about that because, in general, military spouses, I think the percentage is something that like 60% are either unemployed or underemployed. So it is very hard for spouses to find childcare, find a job that, will make more than the childcare that they're going to spend, for.
Big point of contention, I'd imagine. Well, and, there's so much that goes even in the childcare, just having people that you trust the smallest amount to just be like, if something happens, can you just swing by, make sure everything's cool so I can go do this? So, and you don't, when you move so often, it's hard to find those people. So
yeah, I think people with kids, they always joke about like having to have like an emergency contact, and like, you meet them and you're like, hi, you seem cool. Can you be my kid's emergency contact at school?
I just had my first one and I was so honored. I was like, I'm an emergency contact.
Welcome to the world.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. And now that I know that you basically just have to fog a mirror to be that, I'm like, cool.
My friend.
What's your driving record? Spotty? That's fine. They'll survive. They're
you're
tough.
good. But
we have government insurance. They'll be okay.
military people can be shady too, because you'll see people advertising babysitting services, and I think there's sometimes like a false sense of security that goes with the military. They're like, oh, they live on base, or oh, their husband's military. Like, you should still do a background check. Like, if you're leaving your child with someone, like,
yeah, because I guess it could be somebody's like girlfriend that they picked up or something.
Right. You hear horror stories.
Ooh.
So do your due diligence.
Yeah, and I think like just because I feel like there's a disconnect between the communities that bases are in, and then just that being able to talk to one another, and because that's always revolving, and this is changing or progressing forward, and so maintaining that point of communication and just maintaining those relationships, I think can be hard. And while you're here, I like to just open it up and be like, do you have anything you want to say about like being a military spouse or moving to Sumter, or like any of that stuff?
Well, I will say that what you said is true for a lot of places. There's a huge disconnect, or they don't want the military there. We came from
the military here.
No, Sumter loves Shaw, and I would say that it is so nice, and Sumter has been so welcoming, and the connection between the two, I feel, is palpable.
Good.
Between the leadership, on base, and the leadership of Sumter. Mm-hmm. There's a lot that goes hand in hand together, and they work, in a symbiotic relationship so that they both can prosper, together.
Yeah, I feel like we do, because I've been to other places that have military bases. I feel like Sumter does do a pretty good job, but I'm also not in the military. Mm-hmm. So I just don't know how the other side of the fence sees it.
Well, I think there's, sometimes two types of people in the military where they are going to be here for 2 years. And they're like, I'm going to hate it for 2 years, or I'm going to love it for 2 years, or I'm going to stick to my bubble because I can live on base and maybe I can shop on base, and my friends are going to be my next door neighbors on base. Mm-hmm. And that is very safe for some people. And, I don't fault that at all. But I would say that my key to success in keeping a balance in my life has always been to get to know people outside of the military world.
Right.
And so I love Sumter for that reason, because the people here are amazing. They are.
I love that so much. I love the people here, so I love when other people say that they love the people here.
No, and you and I met through a mutual friend because her husband was part of the honorary commander program at Shaw. Mm-hmm. So I think that.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yes.
So I thought I met you through Brooke and Vince.
Yeah. So Vince was an honorary commander.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the other Sarah that was there that
night.
Oh,
there were like 4 Sarahs that night.
It was the night of too many Sarahs.
There were too many Sarahs there that night.
Were we at the Rafters that night, or was the first time at Salute?
That was at Salute.
Oh, the night that lives in infamy for so many reasons. We'll talk about it at your birthday later.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later.
Okay, so Brooke and Vince was the honorary commander.
Yeah, and so there's a lot of things, when you are an airman that gets assigned to Shaw, they have this thing that's called the Weasel Welcome, and after that, because they're the Shaw Weasels, they put you on a bus and they take you downtown and they show you parts of Sumter. The Chamber of Commerce feeds you. There's a lot of good things where bases that I've lived before that, there's no other town that's like, let us feed you. Let us come to the commander's breakfast, or they do a military appreciation picnic at Shaw.
I've been to that a few times. That's super fun.
Did you serve?
We had like a little booth and we gave out something. I think we gave out candy and like these little ruler things.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like they really try and get people involved, and that is what, to me, either speaks to a community and, how you get to know people and get to know about the community and learn to love like all the little secrets and all the restaurant, stories and where to go on the weekends.
Yeah, so like, you got that one cheese that you can only get from the one grocery store and you got to go over. Don't worry about that guy. He's harmless.
Right.
But just go in the left side.
The neighborhood doesn't look great. Don't you worry. You go inside that store, you'll be fine.
You'll be fine. So Katie and I like to travel and go in places and be like, all right, whose Instagram account can we find that knows about all the like little places? It's a fine art to find the little. So I love that you do that on purpose.
Oh no, I love that. And I will say that the Palmetto Tennis Center here has like, there's so many military discounts and they'll give you a racket and lessons and bring you on, and I don't know. That has been one of my saving graces here, and a great way to meet people and community and have some social exercise. You make me want to play tennis,
and I don't want to play tennis.
I've never really played tennis. Girl, I went to the state champions ship in the fall.
That is so. I feel like I'm gonna break a knee. It's like there's so many lateral movements. I'm like, oh,
you gotta get a good shoe and
you
hold your ankle up. Yeah.
You did go to the national championship though, didn't you?
The state ones. It was in Hilton Head. Yeah.
Oh shoot.
But it's fun. But we got a house, 15 girls, 15 women in a house, and had so much fun.
Oh, that is so awesome.
Played telestrations, played some tennis, eat some seafood. So,
that sounds like a great weekend.
It is. But had someone not been oh, you need to find this place in Sumter and you should go check it out, I probably would have never. I'd never played tennis in high school. I never played in college. But it took someone from telling me, this is a Sumter secret. Go check it out.
Oh, man, I love that so much. And they are building a really big building over there.
It's amazing.
I will find the scoop out.
If they have a tournament or something or a round robin when it opens, I'm coming back for it.
You're going to come back for it? Will you come stay with me?
Yes. Please have me.
Absolutely.
Your house is adorable.
Thank you. You can stay in the Harry Potter room or the Flamingo room.
Ooh,
You choose.
I do love the Flamingo room.
Yeah. It has the better bed.
Yeah. Let's be honest.
Let's be honest. It has the better bed. Okay, so we're still talking about you finding your people in Sumter. I went to England for the shortest amount of time. It was just 3 months. But I was I refused to bring over my own tiny Sumter over here. And I just I missed everything here so much, but I feel like I lived there. Mm-hmm. I could go back. I know the streets. I know the lingo. I could find my way.
You got Cockney slang.
Yeah, I'm good. Let's spot a tea for dinner. Just have whatever. That was terrible. But, okay, so tennis and all the stuff and then moving around.
Yeah.
And gosh.
But it's really, I think that to be a military spouse, you have to, pursue your own interests where you are, because the military or your spouse's career can sometimes have an overshadowing effect. And these careers are so finite. People are in for 4 years, or maybe they do 8 years, or maybe they do their 20 and then they're done. And who are you when you're 43, when your, spouse is retired? You still have a lot of life left in you, right?
A lot of life.
Tons. So I feel like sometimes people get so caught up in this world that's not going to be theirs forever.
Yeah, we're going to have this whole other thing. It's so my parents, even though we live on a compound, growing up, they were like, you were never the focus because you were going to leave when you were 20. Mm-hmm. And then I was going to live with him the rest of my life. So you could never be the focus. So you just have to, there is an end to this tunnel.
But there's running groups here. There's all sorts of stuff here.
I feel like we're, maybe it's because I don't get super involved with it, but I feel like we have a ton of sport things.
Yes.
I know we have a ton of softball stuff, and I think our soccer's gaining some interest. So, and then USC Sumter, I think, does a pretty good job with their sports stuff.
You need an adult kickball league, something like that. That would be
There
fun.
was one in Columbia that I tried to be a part of, and it was too competitive.
Really?
Can you imagine? It was too competitive.
Sometimes people get crazy. There is a great, the Sumter City Disc Golf Club.
Nice.
Yeah, there's a great one at Dillon Park that they keep building and adding on to it.
Oh my gosh. I've seen it.
Yeah, the disc golf.
Because I go play softball out there.
You throw it into the chains.
I know. Also, I'm so sorry. I probably shouldn't. I'm not going to say it.
No. Okay.
Male-driven sport. There's just a lot of ego out there. And
Oh,
I'm
you
just
can do it.
I know I could. I don't want to have to deal with the rest of it and be like, it's also part of why I don't go golf. I feel like I could probably be pretty good at golf. But I want 3 other girls, very specifically 3 other girls just to go golf with. And those are the 3 people I want to hang out with until I get my feet under me. And I'm having trouble finding those ladies. They're very busy.
You got to find a golf course. Maybe when the golf course opens up in
I
town.
have my eye open. Yeah. So I've definitely picked my golf bag.
Ooh.
It's patina.
Of course it is.
It's an investment to get started in golf. I don't know what I'm going to do. And
It's an expensive sport.
I did buy some vintage golf shoes that had never
like the
been
saddle
worn.
ones?
They're very cute. They're called Lazy Bones.
Oh.
They're very cute. Very, very cute. Anyways. Okay, enough about that. I have a series of questions.
Okay.
That I need you to answer.
I'm going to take a sip for that.
Yeah, please take a sip. Very serious questions.
Okay.
But I feel like people enjoy them.
All right.
If you passed away and were reincarnated as an animal, which animal would it be?
Ooh, I hope it's Duchess. I really hope it's my pug because, she's very spoiled.
Duchess does have a good life.
She's got a really good life.
I could kick back and eat some carrots. Like, I love Duchess. I should have invited Duchess,
She loves
too.
some carrots. She loves to, go around in her stroller. She's got a chariot on the back of my cruiser.
Oh, my gosh. I love that so much.
She got to go to Savannah this weekend. She scored free ice cream at Leopold's. Thank you, Leopold's.
I also like people that love dogs. Like, that's just good.
I want to be a pug.
If you could go pro in a sport, which sport would it be?
Ooh, women's soccer.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
You played soccer in college or high school?
I played in high school. I played all growing up. I played, for fun in college and whatnot. But yeah, the women's national team were my idols. Had posters.
What position did you play?
I played midfield. And sometimes I play back.
Oh my gosh, I was going to say forward.
No, I was never that fast.
It's a lot of energy out there.
Yeah.
It's a big field.
No. But it was fun. That was my memories growing up are with the people that I played
Those
soccer
women are
with.
tough. Yeah.
Yeah, they were awesome.
It takes a lot. I know the little memes that are like, your sport is my sport's warm-up. Yeah, that's soccer. It's all day long.
Right.
If you could be famous for something, what would it be?
Oh, being nice. Right?
Like Ellen DeGeneres.
Yeah. Please be nice to people.
Please be kind.
Yeah.
I love that one.
I saw someone with a shirt on this weekend that said, be a nice human. And I was like, I really like you. And I didn't know you, but I thought that was such a great message to wear.
Just be nice to people.
Be nice to people.
If they're doing something that doesn't affect or bother you, just let them keep on doing it.
Push your judgment down. Help somebody out. Because they always say, people are like an iceberg. And, you see the top, 5%. And what you really know that's going on about the person, you have no idea.
Oh, I love that.
I
think that's true. It's, because growing up, people are so, and I would just make snap, why is so-and-so, blah, blah. And it's just you never really know what's going on in somebody's life.
Oh, for sure.
It took a couple really big, humbling moments in my, I say big, humbling moments of, weeks and months of just, working through a problem. I just put you back in your seat and be like, you know what, you never know what's going on with somebody. Just let them do that. So, superpower. If you could have a superpower, what would it be?
Ooh. I think I would want to know sometimes what people are thinking.
Very dicey.
Yeah.
Very, very dicey.
Pandora's box.
I feel like it would be Pandora's box.
You just said this to me and you're nodding your head, but I really want to know what you actually think.
I don't want to know what people are actually thinking.
No.
Mm-mm. I'm good.
Okay.
I probably.
What's yours?
This is, I don't know. I think it's probably I don't know.
It's a tough one.
It is a hard one.
I'm
Why
sure
am I putting so much effort into it?
I'll go to dinner and then I'll be like, oh, I shouldn't have said that. This is what I really wanted it to be.
I heard this one answer before, and I think it could be pretty cool to be able to speak any language.
Ooh, that would be so helpful.
Yeah, just speak any language, and there you go.
Fluent in all languages.
So, which brings us back to speech pathology. I'm going to say one more thing, and not to, bring it back, but don't they say that the more languages you learn, it builds these connections in your brain?
It does. They say it can like ward off Alzheimer's and things like that.
Well, that's cool.
Speaking multiple languages.
So when you're working with people, do you ever work with anybody that's bilingual?
I have worked with people that are bilingual, especially in California. I always work with an interpreter.
Okay. Do you have anybody with mental disabilities that have been bilingual? I feel like that might be.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And so that's really hard sometimes because you're like, do we teach the primary language that they speak at home? Are we teaching them the language that they're learning at school, which is English? So in California, I worked in Central California. There's tons of agriculture there, so tons of migrant workers and Spanish speaking. And so we'd say, if you're going to say it in Spanish, keep it in Spanish. And then if you have the words in English to do yourself, you try and like reinforce it in English, which would be the school language.
Man.
Yeah.
This is so intricate.
It is.
You've got a big party coming up, but
No.
My fifth one more thing.
Okay.
I feel like I one more thing people to death. If you could say you want anybody or you want most people to know something about speech pathology, what would you want them to know?
That we can help, and that, people don't need to be scared or bashful, to ask for help or if something's wrong. So, some of the things that we work with, with stuttering, that can be very emotional. My kid isn't saying anything and they're 3 years old. Sometimes they're like, oh, I'll just wait till they get to school. Please don't wait. Talk to your primary care physician, get a referral in, talk to an expert.
That way when they get to school, they've kind of got some stuff happening already.
Right, because there is no cure for a lot of the things that we work with, but therapy works and early intervention is the best thing and the best tool that we have in our handbag. So the earlier, the better.
Yeah, especially I'd imagine that when you're so young, even it compounds any kind of work you do with therapy because you are like so little and you develop so quickly. Catching that early would make sense to me.
Absolutely, and I would say, know the signs of a stroke, and if you think you're having a stroke, don't wait 2 days to go to the hospital.
I've always been worried about having a stroke. I know, I'm just, Lord, please help me. But it's fast, right? Face, arms, because you have to be able to lift your arms above your shoulders. Speech.
And
then it's all jumbly.
The T is time to call then.
Because you have a golden hour where sometimes you can get a shot.
So 3 hours is, they say, the golden window for the TPA, which is what they'll give you at the emergency room. And sometimes they're saying now it's be fast because balance and then your eyes, sometimes blurred vision, are signs as well. So don't be embarrassed to ask for help. There's someone that can help you. Don't wait if you think you're having signs of a stroke, and don't listen to Karen on the internet. Find someone with some evidence-based practice that they can look up for you or give you some good resources, right?
Like, don't just word of mouth don't word of mouth WebMD your symptoms.
Right.
Just, when something's bothering you, especially if you're somebody that doesn't call a lot about a lot of stuff. It doesn't even matter, no matter who you are. Check it out, because that's, an important one.
And I feel like moms know, right? I'm not a mom, but I've worked with tons of them. And, my kid had words and then they stopped talking. Well, that's not right. That's not right. So I'm so glad you're in my office today and we're talking about this because you're right. That's a flag for something.
Yeah, because you literally study these kids and how their speech develops.
Yeah, their milestone developments.
So it makes you a little bit of an expert on it.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Not always.
I mean, I think I struggle with that with Katie because she literally studies how kids develop, but she doesn't have children. And sometimes people are like, but do you really know? And she's like, yeah, I only spent like 11 years in school for this.
Some people I think are really quick to judge people that don't have children for multitudes of reasons in every area of their life, especially professionally. And you're right. I'm not a mom and I don't understand, what you're going through, but please don't, dishearten, her years of education or
your years of education,
my years of education
and your years of experience with this,
Yeah.
because you can help with this one thing.
Right.
I'm sure you can help with more than the one thing, but you've been trained in this one thing. That's pretty cool. Okay, so I'm going to do it again. If you could talk to just the Sumter people that, about being a military spouse or about moving here new, even if you're not in the military, like, what do you want to say to the Sumter people?
I would like to say just thank you to the Sumter people.
Oh, you're so sweet.
No, it's been a really, really great run for us here. Like I said, we stayed on. So if you meet someone and they're new in town, give them an idea, give them a hint, tell them where to go eat,
tell them to go play tennis if they've never played tennis a day in their life.
Yeah, there are so many things that I feel like are popping up around here that are new too. So you probably know about more than I do. So please share your town with us, because we've got a finite kind of 2 to 3 years to see things, and that's it. And then we're gone. And, I want to look back and be like, oh man, I love that place.
I feel like, yes, and we want you to come back.
Yeah, that was a good duty station.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I had nothing to do with it.
You had lots to do with it.
Well, I will say thank you. What was I going to say? Oh, thanks for coming on. And
thank you so much for having me.
Being a great guest and being a good friend, and I've loved talking to you.
Yeah, thank you for helping get the word out for May. It's Better Hearing and Speech
Month.
Oh,
man, I'm a failure. I did not bring that up.
And I feel like Military Spouse Appreciation Day was like I think it was last week. It's not really celebrated, but thank you.
I
feel
that
like
I had you come in for that
to
reason specifically.
Wrap in all these little parts of me just by talking to you here.
You're so fun and interesting, and I knew, cause I know when we first talked about you coming on, you're like, what am I going to talk about? I'm like, literally you, like everything you've done. You've been all the places, and you have a very niche job, like career path.
It's cool.
I like it. Well, thank you again.
Yeah.
Anyways, and now we're going to go celebrate her birthday. Thank you, F45, for powering us here at In Sumter with Sarah J. They are still doing their 10 people exercise thing, I think. So you got to download the app, schedule yourself. If you're not going to make it, take yourself off. Somebody else can go. And then just have a great week and be safe out there. Love you guys. Happy birthday.
Oh, thank you.
Cheers. That was a good one.
Cheers.